We got a phone call from John Morris down at Big Bend Wildlife Center, and he said that he was called out the other day on a bird that was found down in by Flowers Hospital that they believed it was shot. It was a red-tailed hawk. We're headed over to Big Bend Wildlife Sanctuary to check it out and see what's going on. I think it was around 2008 when we were in the Geneva State Forest that we got our first glimpse of a red-tailed hawk up close. He was sitting in a old dead pine tree, and he was eyeing that lake, and I knew that there was something down there that he wanted. Before I could actually get the picture, he dove into the water, and he got the fish. That was for sure. That was the first real close encounter with a red-tailed hawk that I had ever had. Back then, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a Migratory Bird Protection Act Treaty of 1918, which gives 800 species of migratory birds protection from injury and death, or even the possession of body parts or feathers or whatever. But we'll get into that a little later. First, we want to talk with John Morris at the Big Bend Wildlife Sanctuary. This is John Morris. He's the co-owner here at the Big Bend Wildlife Sanctuary. And you had an incident here a day or two ago that you got a call out on. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it was on Thursday this week, and we had a report that there was a red-tailed hawk that wasn't acting normal, and that it was sitting on the windowsill of a orthodontic company and just kind of hanging around. Wouldn't fly off, and was just kind of like looking in the window and just acting kind of strange. And would we handle the call out? And we said sure we would. It was over in Dothan, just off from John D. Odom Drive, and I drove over, prepared myself, and drove over to see what we could possibly do to help the red-tailed hawk. And we were received. I was received by one of the orthodontic specialists there, and she was telling me the story behind it, that it was just hanging around and everything. And one of the clients there was hanging around because he wanted to see what was how we capture an animal. And so I got everything prepared, because once you capture the animal, you've got to have everything ready in place so that you don't try to do things after you got one handful of a bird, a raptor like that, and trying to do other things. So I had everything ready and laid out, so I was ready to capture the animal. So the young lady showed me where it was, and I could see that the red-tailed hawk was sitting over on an air conditioning unit of approximately 100 yards away from where it had been on the windowsill. I observed it for a while just to make sure that there wasn't something that I had missed, like maybe a wing damage or something like that. So I evaluated it from a distance, and then I had a capture net, a long pole net, and I put my gloves on and I walked over towards it. At the same time, I was noticing that the mockingbirds were giving it a hard time. So I figured that it probably was hungry, that maybe it was looking for something something easy to eat. But it just kind of watched me, and the closer I got, it became a little unnerving for him or her, that she kind of kept on evaluating what I was going to do. So I put her in a position to where she couldn't fly where I didn't want her. So I came from that direction, and she flew off. She didn't fly real well. Her wing structure was appeared to be good. Both wings moved simultaneously, and there was no swagger in her movement. So I could tell that both wings were moving at approximately correct, and but she wasn't gaining any altitude. It was kind of a laboring effect for her to try to fly. But where she went is exactly where I wanted her to go. I wanted her to go to an area that she could kind of feel safe in, but she'd be on the ground. It was a wooded area, not really heavily wooded, but enough to where once she's on the ground, it makes it a lot easier for me to try to capture her. She was on the ground. I was able to work my net behind her. As long as they feel like there's no other option, then they go in their defense mechanism, which is they lean back on their tail and their talons come up. Once she's in that position, it's a lot easier for us to capture her. I put the net behind her so that if she did want to try to turn around, she was going to go right into the net. But what she actually did is just fell back on her tail, put her talons up. I put my glove down there to reach down, and she in fact grabbed a hold of the glove as a protective instinct from there. So I was able to, then I had one leg in one talon, so I had control over. I was able to drop the net at that time and then take the other one. At the same time, when you're capturing them, as quiet as you can be and as less stressful on them, they're going to be less stressful. They're going to be a lot more cooperative. I was able to get her into my hand, and I was able to close her wings down and stroke her to make sure that when I put when her wings were down, that they were actually in a natural position. The people didn't interfere, nor did they need to help, but they were understanding that they had to be quiet, and they were a lot of help when it came to that. They were observing, but they were also in awe that a person could actually capture an animal, and the animal would in fact succumb to being captured. Once he knew that I wasn't going to be a threat to him or her, and that I was there to try to help, it was just a great thing. The animal's attention was to me, kept the focus on me, and knew that I wasn't there to hurt him. We were able to put him into the carrier that I brought, and one thing you want to do when you have a carrier is make sure that the carrier isn't too big nor too small, the right size. So I brought a carrier that he could stand up in, but wouldn't give him a lot of room to move his wings. So if the wing damage was there, that it wasn't something there that could be caused for further damage.
Did you see any injury at all at the time?
No, we don't evaluate them when we first capture them because of the fact that it's too stressful if I start pulling them about. So, but I knew that there was something. The young lady that reported them said, "Do I know what was wrong with them?" I said, "Well, it's too early to do an assessment, but the biggest thing is since we captured them, that we will get them into a warm place, get them quiet, let them get some moisture in them, and then we'll when he's a little bit better stabilized, then we'll go through the evaluation." But we definitely knew there was something wrong with them because he couldn't get any altitude. Most birds will, as soon as they want to take off, they'll fly and they'll get up and get to a point where they're less apt to be caught or less apt to have any more damage to them. I brought him home, brought him back here to Big Bend Wildlife, and Terry and I looked at him to ensure that there wasn't something we had to protect right off the bat, but his wings in fact functioned real well and everything, that we just said we're just going to stabilize him. But the goal is when we will do the evaluation, we look at it as will it exceed our capacity, our capability, that the animal wasn't just a simple that he's starving to death or that he's either malnutritioned or nutritional wise that he's lacking. We looked at him and said, we're going to safe side it and we'll go with the veterinarian. So Terry made an appointment the next day. We took the bird to the vet, and that's when we found out that the bird had been shot. It wasn't anything that the bird had on his part. It was that man was involved and somebody had done something illegal and shot the wildlife. These birds are covered by the Migratory Bird Act, and it's also a treaty that everyone put together an effort that we got to protect these animals. That they don't know the boundaries between a county or a state. They don't care. You know, they're just going to fly and they're going to find food. And so there had to be something that's governing that the fish the feds come under, and FWS, and the Fish and Wildlife Services say, you know, we are going to cover these guys. And to me, it's mind-boggling that why somebody would want to target practice on a bird that has no predatory act towards a human. They're not predatory towards any children, maybe a small dog if it was left out, but you know, there's nothing there that a human has to take an action to try to correct a situation that would include shooting a bird, especially a beautiful bird, the red-tailed hawk. They serve such a purpose. They take care of a lot of the rodent problems that we have. They are, like I tell people, if you look at everything that's on this earth, there's only one species that's been put on this earth that really doesn't have a purpose, and that's man. Other than that, everything else has a purpose. They're there for a reason. We're the only ones that don't have a real purpose. So why are we killing things that really have a purpose? It just, you know, it's just mind-boggling that people would think that way. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Come on, bud. One there. One here. Come on. There you go. Good boy.
You didn't see the gunshot wounds until he actually was at the vet then,
Yep.
right?
Yep. That's when the vet helped us. He did the evaluation, the wing structure, and then he found that there was a couple of superficial entrances of small caliber, and then he also found an entrance and an exit wound right at the joint of the wrist of the wing.
No bone damage?
Right now, no. It didn't appear that there was any bone damage. Very fortunate on the bird's part. But, you know, they don't have a lot of blood in their bodies, and it doesn't take much to lose. And it wasn't a recent, such as, you know, within a couple hours. So it could have been maybe a day to 3-4 days old wound. But you know, it doesn't take much for these birds to get down. And then if they can't fly, they can't hunt. If they can't hunt, they don't eat. And it doesn't take much. These birds look big. They don't weigh that much. You know, they look big, but you know, they get to eat maybe a mouse or two, and so their stomachs are relatively small. But it doesn't take much for them to a day or two without food, and you know, they'll succumb to diseases and problems.
But you are right, John, that these birds are very necessary to, I mean, they take care of all the rodent problems, not all of them, but most of them, and they're just a big part of God's circle of life and his food chain.
Yeah.
And they're raptors. I love that word raptor. You know, they're not dinosaurs.
No.
I mean, you know, they're raptors. They're, and you know, they can tell and they can appreciate when they're being helped. So when you got him back here, did you try to feed him?
No, nope. We usually just give them some warmth, give them a secluded area, like the kennel back there. We cover it so that the animal doesn't feel like he's in a threat, that he can feel a little bit of a quiet. And it doesn't mean that it's just a quiet area, but you know, it's dark, it's cool, or it's warm, and that we give him some water. Let him stabilize himself so that he doesn't have that stress. Stress is what kills a lot of things.
Right. I think that's probably one thing that people ought to realize, that I guess everybody who tries to do this kind of work that aren't trained, the first thing they do is let's feed him. He's got to be hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And that can actually harm him, especially if they try to force feed him.
That's right. Yep.
Just let them stabilize and call somebody who knows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Now, this bird has been shot. That is a federal offense, correct?
Yes, it is.
Because he is part of the list. There's over 200 species in that migratory bird list of animals that are protected. Now, folks, you can't even own. I'm sorry.
That's right. That's okay. That's all right.
Come here. I'm not going to hurt you.
Yeah, come on. It was my
But
fault.
look, oh, now that's
Easy,
right.
easy.
Oh, what a beautiful bird. Look at that bird, folks. He is gorgeous. Beautiful color. That's his defense mechanism.
That's right.
That's how he goes in defense. His defense are those talons.
There you go.
Those talons right there are his defense.
Easy.
He won't peck at you. He won't do anything. He'll just go after you with those talons. And
there you go. Good boy. No.
And one thing, John, and
see ya.
in front of the camera.
There we go. Yeah.
One thing that
There you go.
John and Terry are real careful about doing is making this bird tame. It doesn't take long for humans or any other species to realize that, hey, these people are here to help me, you know, and they'll feed me and I won't have to do any hunting and I won't go hungry every day. But that gets them, when they do get released, that makes it hard for them in the wild. I just want to say thank you, John, for saving this bird, and you and Terry, and there's got to be a lot of expense involved in this. I mean, vets aren't. You don't have a free vet, right? He doesn't do it for free.
No, he can't afford to do it for free, and we understand that. But he does it as much as possible.
And
he counts it, but we have to pay for it. You know, it's little things that add up. But you know, it would be nice if we could get some help every once in a while. We do get help on the volunteer side of the house. Sometimes if you can't volunteer, you know, maybe $1 or $2 or whatever you can afford to help us with would really be nice.
Is there, you know, is there a place where they could send donations to?
Sure, they could send it to us at Big Bend Wildlife Sanctuary. Our address is 1034 County Road 445, Enterprise, Alabama 36330. We also have a website, and you can go on the website. And recently we've been added to the Combined Federal Campaign. So if they're in the government or in the military in the local area, we don't have our CFC number yet, but we will be under the CFC program. It'll be Big Bend Wildlife, and you can do it through payroll donations, and either one time or you can do it on a bi-monthly, monthly, or every month for a year. So there's several ways that you could help us.
And these donations that are made to Big Bend, they're tax deductible too.
Absolutely, we are a 501c3 company and corporation, and everything that you do would be tax exempt.
Okay, very good. Oh, okay,
yeah. So. Yeah, so it could be, you know, it could be somebody that is an adolescent that doesn't know any better, just got a BB gun that.
I wonder, was he shot in flight? I don't see any damage to him where he would be sitting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, he could be shot once nearby, and when he opened up, then they are almost like an automatic. So you just pull the trigger, and they could have got him while he was in motion to fly. Come on, buddy.
That feather looks like it's almost out.
You hear that peep? You're a good boy.
Out there.
Silence there, my boy. Yeah.
But we couldn't find an exit wound on it or anything, and we can't really feel anything underneath the skin, but it's it's just all matted with the feathers and everything. I tried to pull him out, so did the doctor, but we didn't want to traumatize him anymore. It didn't look like anything that was infected, but there is a clump right there where he's been hit there as well. And then on the other wing, there's a small area that I found right here.
Oh, yeah,
That's just
okay. Remember, you're a victim of gangland violence there, my boy. Okay, so what next for this bird?
Rest.
Rest? Okay.
He's on he's on antibiotics to try to protect him from going downhill, to allow his body to heal, and then once he's eating and once the antibiotics, then we will reevaluate, and to ensure that his wings are capable of supporting him. Then we'll release him into a smaller cage, and that'll be a restricted area so that he can't do a lot of activity, but it's more of a natural environment.
A question that I've always thought about is, now you had Lucky in there since I've been here, and we're still waiting for his wings to grow. Can you introduce another hawk into his environment? Would that help or hinder, do you think?
I think it would help, actually.
Really?
Yeah, singular, because most of the birds are social. You got some that are territorial, but if you got like a one bird and he doesn't know anything's going on other than he's new in this cube that somebody put him in, they can get depressed. It's not normal. But when you put a second bird in there, now they see each other, they're social. It does help them from going through a depression.
Well, that's something that the Big Ben psychiatrist takes care of right there.
That's right. Yeah. Like I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
He's getting also fluid for the dehydration that he's been through as well.
But prognosis is good?
Oh.
I feel like he'll be able to be released again as long as everything heals well.
Good. Excellent.
And this is one of those situations where we look at it that we try to bring the bird back to the area that we find them in, because there could be a family, there could, could be chicks around or whatever. But this situation is, you have to look at it as, would it be safe for the bird if we already know that he got shot? So, it's one of those things that we'll work with our fed counterparts, and we'll see, maybe this is not one of those areas that we would like to return them back to, and we'll have to reevaluate or evaluate it and base it on a little different scenario. And being licensed and certified by the federal and the state, we have requirements that we have to meet, and those requirements are that a migratory bird comes in and it's injured, then we have to do an evaluation. Once we find out that the injury was man-induced by being shot, we have to report. We have to report, because these birds are in fact governed by treaties and laws. So, it's not something we want to do, it's something we have to do. And it's very important.
Correct.
That's right, morally correct. You're absolutely right.
People don't need to be shooting these animals. You can't eat them, first of all. I've never seen anybody have hawk stew, so, now that's one thing. And he has a job to do. Yeah, you may find him in your backyard, but, he's probably looking for small rodents and rats and snakes and things that you may want to get rid of in your yard.
That's right. He's not always looking for a dog or a cat.
No, I am a Yorkie owner, and my Yorkie is 1/3 the size of him. Now, he would be a meal for him, and I'm aware of that. And it's my responsibility to make sure that the dog is cared for, in the fact that if there's a hawk in our territory, we keep him in the house, because that's just the way it is.
We are happy to say that both are female opossums. This is one that was beaten. She's on her road to recovery, and she's doing better. Still having some sight problems, but doing much better. And the one that Terry found that was kind of emaciated is putting on weight, and looks like they're going to make it. And that's just a good thing.
Of course, all the birds and everything else Terry takes care of are doing well.
Today or tomorrow we'll put her out in the restricted area out in one of the hutches that I've already put out together.
Feeling good? Ready?
Well, somebody walked by.
Yeah.
I mean, ooh. But, where one goes, the other one goes. When the wren gets scared or startled, he'll try to get underneath the wing.
Well, that's about it for us for today. I want to thank John and Terry and Lucky and all the crew from Big Bend Wildlife Sanctuary for such a great show. You know, wildlife, without them, there is no us. So teach your kids and to be responsible, and always remember the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. These animals aren't out there. God didn't put them on this earth to give you target practice. Yes, they're out there as a food source, not only for humans, but for all other creatures, big and small. And that's what God has intended for all His creatures. Not only as a food source, but believe me, this world would not be the same if it weren't for animals. This is Al Vine saying thank you to John and Terry for the great work that they do. And remember, not only is it a morally correct thing to do, it is also the law. So once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you here the next time in the great outdoors. And oh, by the way, John and Terry could sure use some help as far as donations and volunteers go. Everything that they put out is out-of-pocket expenses, and x-rays and vets and medical care is very expensive. So if you can get a few dollars or whatever, go to their website, and they'll show you or tell you how to get the money where it needs to be. So thanks, and God bless.